Part 4. Let's keep going, for that was only the tricky part. For the Big Fig Newton, listen to them tell us all about what an armada is. Now don't get hung up on their highly educated talk of not understanding of the matter. Just listen to their evidence under Steep Empire Dynamics and Ethnogenesis. Quote, contemporary scholars are less inclined to view the tribal groupings mentioned in historical texts as monolithic or long-lived nations, but were rather volatile and fluid political formations whose dynamic depended on the sedentary civilizations they bordered, as well as internal power struggles within the barbarian land. Stop! All of that fancy talk to simply say different nations within an armada, when the time was right, would peel off from the bigger group, then go into their tried and true prey, pounce, play, and become bit. Let's continue for the proof. Quote, in 2003, Walter Poole summarized the formation of nomadic empires. First, many steep empires were founded by groups who had been defeated in previous power struggles but had fled from the dominion of the stronger group. The peel-off. The Avars were likely a losing faction previously subordinate to the Ashanir clan in the western Turkic Khaganate, and they fled west of the Dnieper. Second, these groups usually were of mixed origin. So groups and of mixed origins, huh? Okay. These groups usually were of mixed origins, and each of its components was part of a previous group. Third, crucial in the process was the elevation of a Khaganate, which signified the claim to independent power and an expansionist strategy. This group also needed a new name that would give all of its initial followers a sense of identity. Fourth, the name for the new group of steep riders was often taken from a repertoire of prestigious names which did not necessarily denote any direct affiliation to or descent from groups of the same name. Some of that Tiglath-Pileser stuff. In the early Middle Ages, Huns, Avars, Bulgars, and Orgars, or names connected with O-G-U-R, were most important. In the process of name giving, both perceptions by outsiders and self-designation played a role. Listen up, listen up. These names were also connected with prestigious traditions that directly expressed political pretensions and programs, and had to be endorsed by success. In the world of the steep were Agglomerattions, which is a mass or a collection of things, where that word of groups were rather fluid. It was vital to know how to deal with a newly emergent power. The symbolical hierarchy of prestige expressed through names provided some orientation for friends and foe alike. Such views are mirrored by the lady who did it. C-S-A-N-A-D, next word, B-A-L-I-N-T. Listen closely. Personal quote. The ethnogenesis, the formation and development of an ethnic group, the ethnogenesis of early medieval people of steep origin cannot be conceived in a single linear fashion due to their great and constant mobility. With no ethnogenetic point zero, theoretical proto-people or proto-language. Moreover, Advar identity was strongly linked to Advar political institutions. Groups who rebelled or fled from the Advar realm could never be called Advars, but were rather termed Bulgars. Similarly, With the final demise of Avar power in the early 9th century, Avar's identity disappeared almost instantaneously. Wait a minute, say it again. Similarly, with the final demise of Avar power in the early 9th century, Avar identity disappeared almost instantaneously. Stop. Wow. You know what that sounds like? History overlap. Out of all of the oxymoron, mind-blowing, slamming the mic beyond a shadow of a doubt, white man ratified proof of our Armada theories, I only have one question to ask you, gentle strangers. How many multi-ethnic groups got to rebel or flee from the Avar realm before we realized the master DNA Avars were either the clone makers or the official distributors of soil products of the steppes? Oh yeah. Guess where the Avar homeland is located? What? Who said that? Who said Black Sea? Right, little Miss Lady. Right. The Avars do live on the coastline of the Black Sea. Is that just a coincidence? Yes? No? Of course! A slave nation who rebelled are not going to call themselves the name of their oppressors. Wait a minute. Damn, you coloreds. Scratch that, scratch that. What? Why did I call it oxymoron earlier, you ponder? Because they want a chosen mind, mind you, to either, hold on a second. They want a chosen mind, mind you, to even consider many losers got together and somehow, in some way, that made them winners. I'm going to say that again. That's what I wanted to say. Because they said all these people were losers. They were losers from some other kind of battle, and they all got together, and all of a sudden they were winners. That's some millennial stuff. My bad. My bad. I didn't mean nothing by it. I didn't mean nothing by it. Let me say it again. Because they want a chosen mind, mind you, to even consider many losers got together and somehow, in some way, that made them winners. You know, some of that bad news bears type stuff. No, they were a part of the main armada, and when the time was right to establish their own, they did a scheduled peel-off, and the armada kept rolling to the next repopulation destination. As far as the Avars being pissed at the Romans, well, just by the nature of business, in this case to mean shrink, one or two nations are bound to get away from them. I'm sure they had insurance on the shipment anyway. But before we return to our regular scheduled video, allow me to bust your doubt demon a whole head wide open by proving our armada understanding from another angle. Notice how I call the Avars the master DNA? Check this out. Under genetics, quote, a genetic analysis in the year 2018 about ancient Avars ruling class individuals. Now notice, the other one that we're, I don't know if we got to it already or we're going to get to it, but they're going to mention a study. That study is for present day Middle Eastern. Notice the studies we're looking at, it's talking about the ancient. They're dealing with the ancient people, and they're going to comprise and match them up with the ancient sources. Not none of this new stuff. All right? So let me continue. Quote, a genetic analysis in the year 2018 about ancient Avar ruling class individuals showed a predominantly East Asian Mongolian origin. Listen up. The research suggests that the Avars were not a homogeneous group, but a federation of different tribes. Several individuals are genetically related to modern Central Asians and Siberian groups, namely the Ks, the Ks, the Ys, and the Ys. On the other hand, there were also several individuals that are closest to modern Han Chinese and Japanese people. One analyzed member is closest to modern Armenians and inhabitants of the Caucasus. The analysis concluded that the Ruan theory cannot be ruled out and suggests that the origin of the Avars is much more complex than previously thought. Example, again, they are befuddled with the evidence that fits perfectly, like a hand in glove, with not only our Armada understanding, but all of our history series understanding thus far. But now that I have hopefully gotten your minds right about what is staring a chosen in the face in regards to world history, let's continue with the original article, please. That's the end of that video. Going back to where it dealt with the genetic test. Notice, it's talking about the ancient, and you see how it linked that ancient with the modern. So what does that tell you? I didn't write it in here. You'll see it later on, and I think it's the next video. But what does that tell you? That tells me that new and fresh people using the master copy DNA from those ancient people. It's just like the scriptures tells us that they Moab and Israel for preservation. Yeah, master DNA preservation, and they keep running copies off the copies off the copies off the copies off the copies. Right. Then they hit the master DNA with another mixture of this, that, and the other to create this being. Then they run the copy off the copy off the copy off the copy off the copy. That's why the scriptures told us that their bodies will be weak, and that their bodies are going to be weak because they're running the copy off the copy off the copy. Then they'll go when they need another fresh batch, get a go back to the master source, and then they'll run the copy off the copy off the copy off the copy. Those are those different pulses that we see. I hope that made any sense. If it didn't, let me know in the comment section. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be rolling over this information again. I know a part of it that I said, yeah, we're definitely going to be hitting it again. So, by God's will, look for the next.